welcome to the Debrief. It's Dave O'Neill here with comedy legend Matt Elsbury. How are you, Matt?
That's very kind, although I'm a little disturbed. I'm looking at your digital radio on the car and it said less talk. So what are we supposed to... Am I supposed to bust out some Bryan Adams now?
Right, well, Neil Diamond, it's saying.
It is Smooth FM. So,
on the great Smooth FM 91.5. Bit of Cameron Daddo magic happening, or Richard Wilkins as we speak. Anyway, Matt's been... How long are you doing in comedy? 20 years? 25?
Somewhere in that range, yeah. I don't like to do the maths too closely, but it's somewhere in that vicinity.
No, and we're off to the... Because I would have met you around the Elsbury stages, do you reckon?
Yep, that's where I cut my teeth.
Back at the Elsbury, in the Esplanade Hotel in St Kilda, in the mid-90s it started, maybe early 90s? I can't remember.
Well, I was mid to late 90s, but the Sunday afternoon, the waiting room, hoping to be booked on the Tuesday, the delivery room.
Yes. And tonight we're going to Settlers Run, which sounds a bit ominous, but it's a golf... What did you say? A country club?
It's a country club.
Yeah.
And they call it Settlers Run so that you know it's country. So.
Yeah, right, and it's in Cranbourne. Cranbourne? Yeah,
yep.
So... Which, has a bit of a reputation, but I've been to this golf club before, and it's not posh, but it's not rough at all, because people actually live on the golf course.
Right.
So they buy a house to live on the golf course.
My dad would love that.
Oh, would he?
He would be bang up for that.
Yeah, there's a few golf courses where you can live on the golf course, but we're just sitting in the car waiting for Oaksy, the regular appearer on this podcast, because, well, I'm not saying he's late, but he's 2 minutes late at the moment. We've got to get to Settlers Run. Anyway, so we would have met mid-90s. And where'd you do your first gig?
Yeah, at the Elsbury, the Sunday afternoon.
Wow, you did your first gig there.
Yeah, I remember it very clearly. The one Anthony Morgan was MC.
God, yep, Morgs.
And the fun bit was that he had just come back from Adelaide and had blown a knee out in some form of misadventure.
Oh, wow.
And so was doing the whole thing from sitting on a stool. And I'm 6'1", and Morgs on a stool is not.
No, he's little. Yeah.
And the thing was, I was terrified of the microphone, which that clearly made stand up a natural occupation for me. Didn't want to touch it, so it's set to Morgan's level. So I've basically played Hunchback for 5 minutes. I've stooped over this microphone. Basically, it looked like, well, I'm here at the mic because I can't find a bell to ring right now.
Yeah, right. That's funny. And how'd it go?
Let's just say it will always be a mystery to me why I did my second ever gig. Yeah,
right. Because what was terrifying.
Well, see the joy.
There he is.
Oh, fantastic! I'll get this out quick. Well,
hang on. Is that Ocean? A white car. I think that's right. That's it. Oh, there he is. Yep. There's one to pull out.
Magic of radio.
Yeah. Oh, this.
But no, the joy of the Sunday afternoons was the fact that the worst you would ever get was silence, because they knew what they were in for. They knew it was people, it was rookies. But I got that silence.
Oh, Jesus.
I drank in that quiet.
You didn't mind it at all?
I hated it.
But then you went back for more.
That's the mystery. I don't know why.
Back to the Elsbury, or?
Yep.
And what, did Trev book you again? He was the guy who used to book it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Matt, you didn't do great.
Something like that.
Have a joint. Here we
go. But whatever it was, there was enough in that second one for the hooks to be in properly. But why I booked myself a number 2 will be a mystery until the day I die.
Man, that's pretty amazing. I did okay on my first gig, but I've been in bands and stuff, so I knew how to hold a mic and all that. I love being on stage. I wanted attention, I think. So,
unlike the rest of us that got into comedy. Yeah.
Yes. But
no, I'd done a bit of theatre and a bit of improv.
Are you a
and
teacher,
that sort of thing.
or?
Oh, very briefly.
Yeah. Well, same here. I trained to be a teacher, but it's too hard. I'd rather just stand up and teach. Hats off to any teachers listening. You do an amazing job. Because, it's the kids that are annoying. Not the kids, I mean the parents. Hey, Oaksy.
All right. The legend?
Yeah, he's going to get in the car any minute now. He's wandering across the road. Mate, we're going to be... It'll take us an hour to get to Settlers Run. So, they'll be panicking out there in the great. But anyway, I'm sure it'll be a fun gig, and we'll come back on after the gig and we'll analyse what happened.
Sure.
at Settlers Run? Because you went into cruise ships, didn't you? You did a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't do as many because I prefer my kids know what I look like, but I still do 2 or 3 a year. So.
Do a few, yeah, right. How many were you doing a year?
Up to about 10 to 12.
Oh, wow. That's a lot, isn't it?
So,
and you do those ones where you had to, go away for 4 nights or 5 nights, or?
Usually gone for a week, but only a couple of
minutes.
There he is.
We're starting the podcast without you. Do you want to go in the front or the back, or what do you want to do? Okay.
Do we need a mic?
I don't know about that. Doesn't matter. I've got a light, so anyway, here we are. All right. Well, tune in, and Brad Oakes will be joining us after the break, but we have to go do the gig. We've got hours to go now, in the beautiful. So there he's getting there. There he is. Brad, do you want to say anything to the listeners?
Yeah, I hurt my leg.
You hurt his leg. All right. We will return. Anyway, welcome back to the debrief. We've done the gig in beautiful Settlers Run.
Yeah.
Brad Oakes is with us.
Hi.
It was a good gig, wasn't it?
It was excellent. Wasn't it good fun? That was so nice. Those people, except they did talk a bit, didn't they?
Yeah, a bit rowdy, and people going to the bar.
Yeah. I think there was a little bit of what's that show? Gogglebox.
Yes.
A bit of commentary.
Yeah, a bit of commentary going on.
And that's always one of the hardest things to try and settle down is when they're loudly enjoying and discussing the gag you've just hit while you're trying to get on with the next one.
Yeah. I was trying to explain some of Dave's jokes.
Oh, God. No.
Someone left the DVD commentary on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's an old reference.
Yeah. Well, by the time I got in, I reckon I got on that thing there.
Certain pockets were socially lubricated, but on the whole, they were on board.
Well, I think that's the beauty of not having to go home very far. Because did you explain earlier?
Yeah, people live on the golf course.
They live on the golf course.
Not everyone was from there, but I mean, I was picking on John, who was the treasurer, and then there was Trevor, aka Craig, who was the president. And they all knew each other.
Well, one of the quirky things too is that they all live at number 4.
Well, it does have a bit of a swingers vibe, let's be honest.
It so did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like, oh, she don't like that. And she likes black men.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. But anyway, it was
so much fun. It was just really, I felt like I had my, a few good men moment. My moment where that woman said, "Oh, that's silly."
No, she said she didn't believe you, didn't she? Or
no, the exact quote was, "That's silly." Which, considering you're 10 minutes in by that point, the fact that she chose that time.
I talked about sticky taping the remote to the dog.
That's right.
Yeah, and so I got to educate her.
And yeah, that were some of the biggest laughs of the night, because it was like,
that was so much fun. It's really so good when it's fun, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
One area that might have improved a little would have been
the sound.
Not sounding like it was broadcasting through a fish tank.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know. I had to try to have a look at the soundboard, but
do you know what it sounded a bit like to me? It was like back in school when you'd be in a classroom and in the next classroom they were watching something on TV.
Yeah,
and you could hear it like almost, but not quite distinct.
Yes. Well, I think anyway, but they still responded well. So
the acoustics of the room were fantastic. All you had to do was just, speak with a proper gut voice.
Project.
And they were back into it. It was very funny because, Matt, when you were on, I think I said to Dave, there's 4 people sitting up the back just in front of where we were on the couches. Mm-hmm. And I said to Dave, I don't think they've laughed. And he goes, no, they have. And just as he said it, they just all rocked back in their chairs.
Yeah, laughing.
But they were like big, quiet laughers.
Yeah, which can get a little tricky if you can't actually see what's going on. It's like the actual ha-ha noise reaching the stage would be nice now and again. But no, they all seemed very appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't bugger up Oliver Hunter's introduction this time.
Oh, yeah, Oliver was on. Yeah, Oliver, he's in a wheelchair, so...
Yes.
What'd you say to him last time, Brad?
Oh,
Am I helping you up or something? I can't remember.
Am I supposed to come and get you and bring you on?
And,
It was so awkward.
because he lives out there somewhere, so
Yeah.
he decided to do a short spot.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it did well. And I think that they got a great show, but look how early we're going home.
It's 10 to 8. 10 to 10.
10 to 10.
Yeah, it's great. It's good to get home early. Good to work with you, Matt. I haven't seen you for ages.
It's been a little while, mate.
It's been a while. Of course, when we met in the 90s, I'm trying to remember. Oh, boy. We did a lot of gigs back then. So elbow grease, all those kind of gigs.
The Armadale.
The Armadale. Oh, that was bleak sometimes, though. Don't you reckon? It was a bit... Remember they had that thing at the Armadale where they would put the headliner on first and then
You're obsessed with that, aren't you?
a couple of middle acts, and then at the end they just let anyone go on until it just emptied out the room. Like,
It was
weird way to do it.
And I remember that guy, Lou Strong, one day, he said to me, I was the MC, and he said, listen, I want you to ask everybody to stack their chairs. And I said, I can't do that.
No.
And he goes,
You've forgotten where the whole punter thing finishes there.
And he goes, no, but my team of volunteers are really tired. And I said, all right, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna tell them that I've been told to tell them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went on, and so finished up. Been a great night. And I said, the only thing that would ruin a great night would be if some asshole ordered me to ask you to stack your chairs, which I'm doing. But I want you to know, if it was me, I wouldn't stack my chair.
Yeah, wow.
So even people who might have done it didn't do it.
Can you imagine if he ever ran a restaurant? It'd be like, hope you enjoyed the meal. Now off, do the dishes.
Yeah.
Bring in the produce.
Delivery comes at 4 a.m. Be out the back for it.
The Great Lou Storm. Yeah. I remember that gig. Oh, boy.
But personally...
I still... Because I hear you talk about it sometimes on podcasts, Dave, that it's one of your bugbears.
Oh, how it was ran, the Armadale.
You still say it with that kind of lack of comprehension. You haven't come to terms with that's just how it was.
Yeah, just how it was. No, that was crazy.
It's like those gigs where they don't have an MC.
Yeah.
And they go, no, we figure we don't need one. Yeah, well,
I think you do.
Yeah, watch what happens.
There's a reason why there's an MC, and then because I think they did that funny at the Brummy. They didn't have an MC for a while.
Yeah, and do it relay style.
So the next guy just has to hand it over and go, oh, yeah.
Which is...
And people forget.
And it's nothing better than somebody tanking and then handing you
handing you the mic.
handing you a testament.
Dropping a fresh turd in your hand, basically.
Exactly. A testament to their demise. There you go. I think this mic shit, it doesn't seem to get people to laugh.
God.
It's you.
Well, here we are driving back from Cranbourne.
I did suspect, Dave, that I might have gotten the booking with Brad, a fellow bald man, a fellow brother of the scalp, just so you could show off the fact that you have the
I've
full
got hair. I've got hair, exactly.
3 men in one car, only one carrying any sort of follicles on the scalp.
Yes. No, that's a good point. I should have mentioned that. Except Oliver's got hair, but anyway.
And my partner tried to get me to grow hair. And I said to her, I can't, because I do that. I've got hair, but I've got the lagoon.
Ah, yeah.
So I've just basically got hair on my temples, around to the back, and then this great big naked bit in the centre.
Yeah, the Larry David kind of look, yeah.
I was thinking of Mr. Weatherby, the principal from the Archies.
Yes.
Wow.
There's a reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm good for those.
Mate, were you Betty or Veronica? That's the...
I had my days,
Moose? No. Jughead? No.
I reckon I was a Veronica because...
the brunette.
Yeah. But I was a Veronica, but I was also a Mary Ann.
Yeah, I love Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island.
Sure.
Dawn Wells.
Oh, the best.
So sweet.
The
All right,
best.
so anyone younger than 35 listening is now hitting Google at this point.
Yeah, or not. Or turning off. Hitting the off button.
Yeah. It sounds like Dave's driving an ambulance.
Yeah. Far out.
Oaksy in the back.
But anyway, because you did cruise ships for a long time, didn't you, Matt? You were doing.
Still doing
Did
it.
you guys work together on? Did you work together, Brad?
In the very early days of the ships, they would lose their minds temporarily and have two of us actually on the same ship at the same time. So I don't know if we ever actually shared a vessel, though, did we, Brad?
No, I got puppy walked by Steve Ellison,
yeah,
and then Mark McConville. So
Okay.
they both held my hand for my first two on ships, which was great too, because it was just I had no idea at the time how I would go.
But there is always something special about being heckled days after the show.
Oh, really? On the boat?
People. This is where you discover there are some people who don't heckle out of respect. There are others who don't heckle purely because they're not quick enough. And on a cruise ship, they have days
to think up something.
Yeah, and they'll find you.
Yeah.
Oh God! Thanks, mate. Yeah.
My favourite was when you run into somebody who reckons they knew you, but they couldn't work out where they're from.
Oh God!
Did you go to the comedy show 2 nights ago? Yeah, I did. It was me.
That'd be it.
Yeah,
that'd be it. How many do you reckon you've done, Matt? Over the...
Oh wow. Well, I mean, I don't go nearly as often now as I used to, but I reckon I'd have at least 50 or so under my belt.
Wow.
But I reckon I've got 30, and you'd have more than 100. I reckon.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far because, particularly with the young kids, and as I say, I prefer they know what I look like. I didn't keep up a hugely hectic pace, but I've done quite a few.
You shave your head?
Well, I shaved my head when I could still claim it was my decision.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
Nature was winning, and I decided, well, I better get onto this while I can still say I did it.
Yes.
Simone used to do that joke because
yeah.
I woke up this morning, I realised I was going bald, so I shaved my head. I said, all right, you can go, but you're going on my terms. And
took a play this game.
Yeah.
Funny. But is it lonely on the boats doing those gigs, or?
Well, generally, you got to bring something with you to handle the downtime.
Right.
Because that's where certain of our colleagues have leaned into misbehaviour.
And the buffet.
And the casino.
Yeah, right.
And that sort of thing. So I got into the habit of bringing some kind of project on board with me to help with the downtime there. But I mean, after a while, you also get to make friends amongst the crew, and it's almost like, you know how you bump into certain comedians during festivals and then not see them for a couple of years, and then it's similar on the ships where you'll get to know the same familiar faces and then be on this kind of irregular orbit, but catch up with them again for a beverage. So
yeah, I lived by myself, for so long that it's not hard for me to be by myself.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's almost preferable.
Yeah, well, the fact that I have two sons aged 8 and 5 means I also enjoy my own company.
Oh, of course.
Sometimes, occasionally, there's a couple of people in this industry that I don't particularly get along with, and I've been on ships with them. So
was that hard, or?
Well, it was poignant. It was kind of. I think that the crew would notice that we wouldn't talk to each other in the crew bar.
Yeah, right.
Right. Just because I like animosity to be two-way.
Right.
I don't really hate on somebody that I should have been liking.
Oh God.
But I like it. I like the ocean. I could stare at the ocean for hours if you like.
And if it's rough enough, you can stare at different parts of the ocean just straight out your window.
Oh, I love it.
God. Have you done shows where you moved around on stage?
Oh,
It's been rocking and all that?
Dave, I once did, the stage is generally towards the front of the ship, towards the bows, facing back into the midships. And so you're basically standing there going backwards looking at an audience who are face forwards. And I once did an extra show because the seas were so rough. The dancers couldn't do their show.
Yeah, that's the thing. They always, if the dancers can't get on, it's like, well, what can we put on? Call the comic.
Wow. I was, this is no word of a lie, I was doing setups on one side of the stage and punchlines on the other. Because I just go rattling from one side to the other.
Yeah. Oh, my
as
God.
The ship was just pitching sideways.
Yeah.
But again, I love it. I love how rough the ocean is. It's just such a powerful thing.
Yeah, I've fortunately never gotten seasick, but there was one particular cruise. It was from Melbourne to Adelaide. It was one when they were doing a relocation of the ship. So it had been running out of Melbourne for a while. They were moving it over to Adelaide, and they sold the Melbourne-Adelaide leg as its own cruise. We're giving tickets cheaper than airfares for that trip. And so my family came on board with me, and basically everyone except my then father-in-law were struck by seasickness.
Oh boy!
So dinner became date night with my partner's old man.
Oh God!
And then performing the show to a half full room and this was on when the theatre was on deck 8, and deck 8 was basically whenever someone vomits in a public place, they rope it off with what looks like crime scene tape.
Yeah, right.
And so deck 8 looked like there'd been a massacre.
Under investigation.
There was a new area crime scene cordoned off about every 10 metres all the way across the deck.
Fuck. Oh.
Yeah, after a while, in rough seas, after a while, the ship takes on a bit of a stench.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just, seasickness is not, I just go to the toilet and get rid of this. You know, it can happen like
quite quickly,
like a squall in front of people's faces.
Oh.
But again, the first ship I went on was, we were talking about that magician Duck Cameron earlier.
Yes.
Duck got me to go on this ship. It was only a little ship, the SS Funchal, which every time you mention it to seasoned ship crew, they laugh because it was the smallest, oldest, shittiest ship still in circulation in the world. And when
the SS Punjab.
No, Funchal.
How do you spell that?
Funchul.
Okay.
Funchal.
But it was sold out of WA. It was circumnavigating Australia. It was sold out of WA as a retirement cruise for all these to and froms, these English people who'd moved out to Australia on the ship like 30 years, 40 years previous.
I wanted to remember how rough that journey was.
Yeah, and so what it was that by the time we got to Sydney from Perth for sailing north, then across the top and then down, right, there'd been 4 deaths. And you know what they say, Matt? There's a saying on the ships that if the crew get free ice cream, it means that they've run out of places to put the dead bodies.
Yeah.
Right. And
everyone's walking around eating Magnums. You're like, Jesus Christ.
It must be rough. But it was just an absolute nightmare. But the beauty of that was that we were on the edge of a cyclone coming down from North Queensland, coming down from the tip, Point Cook or whatever it is. And we're in really rough seas on a ship. I think it's only a 6-decker, Matt.
Okay.
I think P&O were 11 decks.
Yeah.
11 or 12 decks. So it was a little ship, and it was just getting tossed around, and nearly all the passengers were bedridden. Half the crew, because they normally sailed in the Mediterranean, so they never had really rough seas.
Right.
Like you can get in, tropical waters. And there's old Oaksy out the side of the ship, and I'm holding onto a stanchion, leaning over the side of the ship, so that as we go down, the spume coming off the waves is hitting me like a money shot across the face, and it's stinging. It was just beautiful.
Man, it's like Titanic. Yeah, like
it was.
The front of the ship.
I was like, I'm the king.
Oh, jeez.
No, it's good times.
Is it the one where you said to the guy running it, maybe next time don't get a comedian? Get another nurse? Is that what you said? Not you.
It's a nice line.
Well, do you know what I did? I did my show, and I had to do 2 shows, but I was a captive on the ship, right? Because everybody was so old. On ships, Dave, if you tie up in a port, anybody can go off the ship because it's just a gangplank.
Yeah.
But for a lot of places, particularly like back in the day, Cairns or up the WA coast, like Broome or whatever, the ship wouldn't tie up. You'd have to go off on a tender.
On a boat?
Yeah. And because it took so long to get all these old people on and off, there was just no chance of me getting off. So I was a captain on the ship. And that's where I said to the security officer, because I'd been in a bit of trouble, was, I didn't realise that I was a seaman. And
yeah, right.
I was in a bit of trouble, and I said to him, well, I'll just leave. We were sailing into Darwin. And I said, well, I'll just get off in Darwin. And he goes, well, you can't get off. I've got your passport. And I said, it's all right. I've got my licence. I live here.
Yes, exactly. And did you get off, or?
No, we came to an arrangement, with like a truce, I suppose. But I don't know which comedian it was that I got a text from them just saying, hey, how's the cruise going? And there's just no mobile phone reception. But we happened to be in port in Darwin at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, how's the cruise going? And I said, I'm sitting on the floor in a toilet in a shopping centre in Darwin, pouring vodka into red Gatorade bottles to smuggle back onto the ship. That's how it's going.
Jesus. Wow.
It was pretty sad. I had a cabin. So once again, on P&O, the entertainers get given good cabins. They're usually up, quite often well above the sea line.
Yeah.
And on this ship, I was below the waterline.
Wow.
Yeah, and
like the poor people on the Titanic.
Yeah, exactly.
With your fiddle and your diddly-dee music.
I had a pipe that ran down through my room. That was obviously a shit pipe. So every now and then, while I'd be quietly sobbing in my cabin, I'd hear.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just a disaster. And so,
how long were you on this ship for?
3 weeks.
Jesus.
2.5 weeks, and I just, I tried to get off in Brisbane. I tried to get off in Sydney, but I did my last show in Sydney, and as we sailed out of Sydney, and I finished, and the curtains closed on me, and I jumped in the air as the curtains were closing, and did that thing, where you click your heels together.
Yeah.
Right, and came down and sprained my ankle, and the cruise officer said, she goes, I think we'll get Brad to do a bit of an encore. And the curtains open and I'm just writhing from the stage on the floor.
That would have been a good opening laugh.
Jesus.
Oh, it was a nightmare. And I just, even when I got off in Melbourne, and I said, if any of you people want to come down and have a chat on the side of this ship, on shore, I don't care who you are, because I wanted to fight them all. The entertainers were wonderful. The amazing thing about it too, Matt, was that these people, all the crew, they're mainly European from Britain through France,
right.
Italy, but a lot of Bulgarians, a lot of Central European.
Yeah.
And they sailed everywhere around the Mediterranean, and they sailed a lot around the fjords in Norway and so on. And I said to them, you'll have your minds blown when we sail into Sydney Harbour. And they're just like so disdainful, just going,
sure.
They've seen the fjords here. And just every single crew member was standing on the top of the ship, on the very top of the superstructure, just taking photos. It's the most beautiful place to sail into.
Yeah.
On a beautiful crisp summer's morning.
It's funny, there's one bit I still mention occasionally on stage when I do a bit about collecting stupid passenger quotes, and one of my favourites was sailing into Sydney Harbour, which was for me the first time. So we're up at very early in the morning, And there was one particular point where you could see land off one side of the ship, but you couldn't off the other side. And one woman has very loudly called out to her friend, "Come over this side, it's going faster."
God.
All right, thanks for that. I'll be filing that.
Oh, boy.
When you were talking about the cabin down in the bowels of the ship, there was one ship that used to be a P&O vessel that they sold about a year and a half ago, I think, where the guest entertainer cabins were actually on the waterline. So we always knew when rough weather was coming.
Was that the Dawn?
Ahead of anyone else. That is the Pacific Dawn.
Yeah.
And we'd always get the advance notice ahead of any other entertainers and passengers, because we would come back to our cabins and find that the heavy metal shutters had been put down over the portholes, just in case, the water got furious enough to actually break the windows.
That freaked me the fuck out the first time I saw that.
So, you've heard the old cliche of batten down the hatches. That's what batten down hatches
That's what it means.
look like.
Yeah.
Wow. Ah, the high seas.
Yeah.
The hearties.
The problem is when it's the high seas and then the low seas and then a few seconds later the high seas again. That's
Yeah.
Well, I said I never got seasick.
Yeah.
I did have this one malaise, which was I was in a crew bar one night. I drank three bottles of white wine, and that was after my show and everything. So I drank a lot, and I went up to my cabin, which I think was on deck 9, and I lay on my bed, and I thought, I'm really spinning out here. Anyway, the next morning, I thought, wow, because we're in rough seas. And I thought, wow, I thought the seas would be calmer now, but I'm still in really rough seas. But in fact, we were tied up in port in Brisbane.
Your own personal rough seas.
Yeah, and it's and I went to the ship's doctor because it ended up I couldn't do my next gig because I just stand up and fall over, or I feel like I was falling over, and the ship's doctor had no idea what it was. I ended up having to be flown home early to Melbourne, and it went away the moment I drove out of the airport, and from where my car was in a long-term car park. But I checked out. I had a thing called mal de mer.
Oh, it's an inner ear thing, is it?
Yeah. But it translates, I think, literally to sickness of the sea.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it was a combination of high seas and white wine. So
Sure.
I learned something there. I learned never, ever, ever to drink 3 bottles of white wine in rough seas.
I have been seasick literally once, and oddly enough had a similar fundamental cause. There's one particular, I'm going to do a quick shout out just in case a gentleman who, by the name of Rory, gets to listen to this, because it was his birthday. He's been doing the ships for a million years, and it was his birthday the night before I was disembarking, and I was disembarking at one of the tender ports that Brad was describing, namely at Cairns.
Yorkie's Knob.
Yorkie's Knob, beautifully named for any comedians there. But every so often, Yorkie's Knob, the seas will be rough enough that they end up cancelling because they simply can't run the tenders.
Yeah.
And this was on the threshold of. So they were still running them, but it was to the brink of cancellation.
Yeah.
And the tenders, you have the bit where everyone walks on, and then a dip front and back where they actually sit. Because I'm there with my suitcases, I'm on the rise instead of going down into one of the dips. And it started with one, I believe, 9-year-old child on one of the dips who threw up and set off a chain reaction.
Yeah, well, it's like yawning. Once someone does it,
Yeah.
causes other people to do it.
If I had not been on that particular rise, I would have joined in. There would have been no way to avoid it. But yeah, once one of those particularly messy dominoes falls, the rest come down. And oddly enough, as colourful as a lot of the domino displays you'll find on YouTube now, there was all sorts of colours all over the place.
Gosh.
But yes, that is the only time I've been seasick. And yeah, like I said, similar cause, celebrating Rory's birthday the night before.
Rory. I should ask you the questions that we ask on this podcast. What went well tonight and why? Either of you guys, what went well?
I'm going to throw in an observation of Brad's opening set rather than on my own. The fact that as soon as he got into the crowd, and particularly the one woman who declared that gag of yours silly.
Yeah.
The bit that followed that was some of the absolute biggest laughs of the night.
True.
Where Brad carefully and gently explained that there was some distance between the performance and objective truth.
What didn't go well?
Sound was a little bit shitty.
Yeah, well, that's the next question. What organisational hazards got in the way? It's the sound, definitely.
And the patches of the audience who didn't realise that they weren't at home in their lounge room. You try not to break out into party level conversation, even though they were talking about what was happening on stage.
Yes,
it's kind of the least intrusive that I've ever felt. That, you know, like I said, it had that Gogglebox feeling about it.
Yeah,
people they weren't pardon me, they weren't disdainful or talking about something else. They were actually trying to keep each other up to speed.
Yeah, but that also makes it harder to overcome.
Yeah.
If you end up trying to shut them down, it can come off looking like an exercise in puppy kicking.
Yeah, well, I know.
True.
But there was a lot more.
I'm scared of looking like a puppy kicker.
Well, how can we do better next time? That's the last question.
Microphone stand.
Microphone stand. Yes.
Rather than the relay button.
Or we stay at Settlers Run. We stay there overnight.
Oh, wow.
At John's house or the President's.
You really want to get in.
It'll be a quicker podcast afterwards if we stay in there.
You really want to get into the swingers thing, don't you?
Yeah, it's crazy there.
Key party.
But yeah, find the treble switch on the microphone.
Yeah, I know, the boom. Like a booming. Anyway.
No, once again, your light saved the night as well.
Oh, my light.
It's good enough.
Beautiful light.
Maybe, it's always... nothing much you can do about it, but it's always a little bit sad when you got a big white backdrop behind you.
Oh yeah, you need a black curtain.
Yeah, but I know I want to. I don't know if we do this, but I'm going to give that gig a 9 out of 10.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah. And they looked after us.
They were great. You got a pizza.
The venue was wonderful.
Yeah,
pizza was delicious.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, guys.
Thanks, man.
Matt Elsbury, thanks very much.
Cheers.
And Brad Oakes, again on the podcast.
Yes.
See you
Brad Oakes,
again.
0.5. Thank you.
Bye.